Greetings from Richard Fulmer and welcome to another Richard's Rock Rambles. I'm not alone this evening. I have my co-presenter here, Charlie, who's been a bit off colour of late, so he's a bit needy. So he insisted that he be part of this episode, which is fine as long as he doesn't, get too involved or get too opinionated. We'll let him hang around, although he might just jump off just now. Anyway, moving on to the music side of things. We're going to have a look at another hidden gem today. And the band we're going to look at contains members of a well-known previous band and a few from other bands that joined in. Sadly, only one album. The band I'm talking about is a band called Armageddon. Only made the one studio album, no live album, no tour in fact. Went to the studio, did a great album, and that was it. End of Armageddon. So who was in the band, or better yet, when did they start? So they recorded at the Olympic Studios in 1974 and released in May the following year, 1975. They were on a couple of labels. In the beginning, they were on the A&M label. That was the original label when it was released on vinyl. And then in 1998, it was re-released on that great German label Repertoire. That was in 98. And again, in 2009 on the Esoteric label. So it has been re-released a number of times, and it's become quite a collector's item. I was lucky enough to find mine at one of the many vinyl fairs that I've gone to. Finally got hold of it. Not in mint condition, but good enough to play and listen to. And the album was produced by the bands themselves, so they didn't have an outside producer. So the important part, who was in the band? Well, you had Keith Ralph on lead vocals, harmonica, and if that name rings a bell, yes, he was an ex-Yardbirds member. Unfortunately, he died shortly after the album was released. It was a strange death. He was electrocuted. Cheers. Electrocuted on stage while playing guitar. I suppose if you're a muso and you want to go out one way, that's one way of doing it. But yeah, very sadly, shortly after the album came out, he was no more. So yeah, he was electrocuted while playing guitar. Martin Pugh on electric and acoustic guitar, formerly with the band Steamhammer. And then you had Louis Sonamo on bass, and the originator of the electric bowed bass. So that was, I'm not too sure what that looked like, but he was the originator of that. And then of course you had, and he was also from the band Steamhammer. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. And then you had a guy by the name of Bobby Caldwell on drums. And he was also part of the band called Captain Beyond. And the very first episode of these Hidden Gems, I spoke about Captain Beyond. So you can see all these guys were interlinked. They all knew each other. And the other band that I also mentioned in the Hidden Gems was the Box of Frogs, who also had ex-Yardbird members. And Keith Ralph, the guy that passed away here, on lead vocals and harmonica, he was also part of the band, the original lineup of the band Renaissance, which would later on go on to feature Annie Haslam and a whole bunch of different musos. But for the first two albums, he was part of Renaissance. So quite a varied career. So let's look at the album itself. This is quite a short episode, as I say, only one album. But I reckon it's an album worth checking out and getting hold of if you haven't yet. There we go, that's the cover. As you can see, this is a second-hand record, so it's a bit bent and buckled, but hey, the vinyl itself is in pretty good nick, so that's the thing that counts. These are the guys in the front, with that sort of apocalyptic scene at the back there, of, I presume it would be like the First World War. And that's the back, and they've all turned to stone. So what does it say here? It doesn't say very much. Armageddon, a four-piece musical group whose diverse backgrounds provide a fitting prelude to the innovative music contained on this debut album for A&M. Keith Ralph, vocals and harmonica. He was a singer and composer with the original British blues group, the Yardbirds, like I said, the Yardbirds. And then you had Martin Pugh, electric and acoustic guitar from Steamhammer, Bobby Caldwell, and Louis Sonamo, bass guitar, and the originator of the electric bowed bass guitar, originally with Renaissance and Steamhammer. So these guys had some pedigree, you know, they weren't just any old musos decided to get together. They'd all had a history in music, especially with the Yardbirds and Captain Beyond, etc. Not a very long album. In fact, there are only, on side one there's 3 tracks, and on side 2 there's 2, although the second part of side 2 is actually, it's got different sections, so it's like a very much a prog kind of leaning. The style of rock on this is hard rock with a bit of prog, lots of time changes, really interesting stuff. It does remind me in spots, probably because of the guys in the band, of a Captain Beyond. It's got that kind of sound. Or another band that you could compare them to would be Warhorse. And Warhorse was also part of, well, they had ex-members of Deep Purple. And yeah, so the sound is very interesting. A lot of great harmonica here from Keith Rolfe, excellent harmonica player. So the first track starts with Buzzard, with some great fuzz guitar with wah-wah, and all sorts of guitar effects going on. Then the second track is Silver Tightrope, which is it's a slower number, quite sort of eerie sound to it. Not a full-on rocker, but really interesting as well. Then it's Paths and Plains and Future Gains. That's the third track, also really cool. Some great guitar work, excellent drumming as well on here from Bobby Caldwell. Then we get to side 2, Last Stand Before was the first track. And then it's Basking in the White of the Midnight Sun. So that's the lengthy track. And that's got 4 parts. It's got Warning coming on, Basking in the White of the Midnight Sun, Brother Ego, and Basking in the White of the Midnight Sun reprise or reprise. I'm not too sure always how you say that. So, and that's the album. Let me show you the cover one more time. There we go, Armageddon. If you come across this anywhere in a second-hand vinyl fair or whatever, grab yourselves a copy. It's really worth it. It's some great early 70s hard rock. As I said, mixed in with a bit of prog. There's even a few jazzy elements to it. Great vocals from Keith Rolfe and harmonica. In fact, the entire band play really well. If you're into short songs, maybe not for you, especially the second side where it does go on a bit. But if you think about it, like I mentioned with Captain Beyond, that was actually just one long track for the whole album, which they sort of just split up. Similar thing with this band, although side 1 is pretty much 3 different tracks. So there we go, Armageddon, one and done, sadly. And with the death as well in the band, so yeah, not good times for Armageddon. But you know, there was a time in rock when guys were trying everything, people knew each other, let's form a band, let's do this, which made it so cool. Have yourselves a great week, guys. If you haven't yet, please, down below, give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't, and look after yourselves, and I'll catch you soon. Cheers.